Hello, my name is Lucas. This is Bit of Lit, and I missed Friday reads, but I'd like to do a weekend wrap up for what I've been reading this past week or so. And yeah, it's been slow. I haven't been reading as much, a little bit stressed, like I've mentioned before, about my job. I think I will keep it, so I think next week I will be far less stressed, though I will start having a lot more work to do, so I will have less time, which will be good. So, hopefully, anyway. I don't see why I wouldn't, because they have me scheduled for next month, which is a good thing, because that means I've made it past my probationary period. Anyway, yeah, I haven't been reading as much, at least in terms of novels and stuff. I've been reading a lot of back issues of The Atlantic on their website because I'm subscribed until October. I read the first one, which was the first one of the year, before any of this happened. Well, not before any of this happened, before it got out of hand, I guess. Yeah, the January, February one. And then in February, my computer exploded and I got it fixed at the very beginning of this month, a couple weeks ago. So I've been using it a lot more to work on things that I will eventually use to fill in this blank space one day. But for now, I'm using my phone again because I keep forgetting to charge the batteries to my camera. But yeah, I've been reading the March, April, May, and June issues for The Atlantic, and I tend to ignore the ones that are about Trump because some of them felt very extremely dated because life has changed so rapidly every day, especially every month. But I try to avoid the ones that are directly about Trump, just because I see enough of him in my life, and I've seen too much of him in my life. And, you know, like, because they were back issues, it was outdated stuff, like stuff I already know, because I already lived through it. And I haven't forgotten. But, yeah, I mean, there were all kinds of interesting articles and great book reviews. There are a few books that I saw that I'm interested in. There's a book about called Coffeeland, about El Salvadoran natives getting screwed over and how coffee is the drug of the capitalism's drug of choice. And saw something about this reporter who was chosen by Edward Snowden to send some of those documents to, and saw his book and saw a whole bunch of other books. And the June one was just depressing because it was all about COVID-19, homelessness, race. Oh gosh, I'm blanking right now. There was a whole bunch of different ways we live in a failed republic, and you know, COVID-19 has shown that to us, and you know, that kind of thing. I really like The Atlantic, so it was good to catch up on those this past week. I read, let's see, I guess 4 issues of them, minus the articles directly about Trump. I mean, June was about Trump because it was all about COVID-19 and how he said, screw it, we're doing it live. Just everyone can have it, I don't care. Anyway, let's not talk about that. I also read, I bailed on God by Jack Miles again. I started reading it and I decided, again, it's not because I don't like the book. I just didn't have the tools to read it, to appreciate it the way I should, I guess, because it's really amazing to read. Really sort of a paradigm shift in some ways for how to consider God. But I don't know the stories super well. I know some of the earlier ones and some of the ones in the middle, but they're parts of the Old Testament or of the Tanakh, Torah, that I just don't know. Anyway, that well. And then I bailed on Robert Jordan's The Eye of the World, the first book in the Wheel of Time series, because I wasn't really feeling Rand. I think I will come back to it one day. I got about 230 pages in, and I wasn't bored or anything. I just... it might be a slow starter, one of those slow burn kind of books, I don't know. But yeah, I bailed on that book 230 pages in, of like 850 or something. So 2 bails, I guess a third bail, because I bailed on God twice. Anyway, I also read The Plague by Albert Camus, the French-Algerian absurdist writer. Previously, I've read a short story of his. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like about the education system in Algeria, I think, and just how absurd it is. And I've read The Stranger, I think just once, maybe twice. And I liked that when I read it. I don't know if I would like it still, but yeah, I decided to read The Plague because of everything that's going on. I wanted to see how it was fictionalized. This kind of thing was fictionalized a long time ago, in the middle of the last century, and yeah, it's a decent book. It shows what little power we have over our lives, in a way, because of viruses, because of things out of our control, because the plague comes back, all these rats die, and people are upset by that, and then they start getting sick, and they're really worried, and they want to go and reconnect with their lovers, and who are in a different city, which is the city of, or they're in the city of Oran in Algeria. And it's narrated by a doctor who wanted to give an objective view of everything that he saw, to show, that there's more good in humanity than bad. And there's a lot of bad things that happen in this book. When I was reading it, had I read this book before the virus, I would have said, this book is unrealistic. There's a scene, and I'm going to tell you what it is. It's in the middle of part 3. And, sorry, I'm playing with my clothes. I'm sure you can hear it rustling, sorry. There's this moment. Unlike what everyone is dealing with, as deadly as it is, and as much harm it's causing, which is a real tragedy, this is kind of like the Black Death coming back, and pretty much anyone who gets this disease is dying. It's not everybody, it's just a lot of people are dying. A lot of people are dying. And yet there's this part in the middle of the third act, the third part, where everybody goes to the opera, or the playhouse at least, and they watch Orpheus, or a play of Orpheus, and I'm forgetting the name, but if you know Orpheus, then you probably know what I'm talking about. And the person that everyone is happy to be there, even though, they've been living in a restrictive lifestyle, and they want things to go back to the way they were, and they're tired of living in fear. And then the guy that plays Orpheus dies and falls over, showing symptoms of the plague. And everyone freaks out and runs away. Now, everyone panicking and running away because of what they just saw makes sense to me. The fact that any of them are there before this virus happened, I would have said that is ludicrous. And yet, we live in a world where Americans exist. And other citizens of the world too, I'm sure. If you follow the news, any kind of news about America, you know what I'm talking about. There is this part. I like the book overall. I mean, it does show that, you know, humanity doesn't have a lot of control over its fate in a way. Isn't able to exert any kind of meaningful power to protect itself from unseeable forces. So there's that. That's fun, I guess. There's the whole thing at the end where he says, you know, there's more good in humanity. I don't remember how it's worded, and I wanted to quote it to you, but my Kindle is not opening. But there's another part, part 4, I believe, where the doctor... No. Is it the doctor, or is it Codard? Or is it Rambert? Oh gosh, I'm forgetting which character it is. I think it's the doctor, though. No. Well, anyway, one of the characters, he starts sort of talking about his life before, and then he starts talking about the death penalty and how he's like opposed to it, and you know, he just philosophizes on it forever. And the way it's discussed, and I really wish my Kindle would turn on and open and I could get to that page, because I highlighted it and I saved that page, and it was like a really cool segment, because it talked about how I mean, we're dealing with that plague, right? We're dealing with the virus, or the bacilla, the Black Death, coming back and killing everybody in this town. But we have other plagues, and they are sort of cultural. They're in our, you know, they're in our culture. They're in our customs and the things that we do, that we accept, and blah 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 blah. I'm trying to remember exactly how it is, but it was something along those lines. So I'm sorry that I can't remember. Anyway, I just think, wow, that's, you know, that's true. There are a lot of horrible things we deal with in our own cultures that are a plague in their own way. They infect us all. Even if we don't have the disease, right, COVID-19, we are still infected by other sort of diseases in our culture. Now, if you are American, you know what's going on in the news, and you know what all that's about, and you know that it's all about racism in America, which is, you know, I'm sure you can see the connection I'm trying to make. Racism is a disease, and it infects us all in America. It's in our DNA, you know, as Americans. Now, you may not be racist, but you are living in a culture that is deeply infected with this kind of plague. And yeah, I just thought that was really cool that I could still relate to something in this book. That makes me like the book actually quite a bit. Obviously, if I can relate to it, I might have a reason to like it. And yeah, I thought that was really powerful. You know, it wasn't necessarily talking about racism, but it was talking about there are other issues that hurt us all, harm us all, that we all feel, even if we're not, you know, impacted by this disease directly or something else directly, we are impacted by it, and it's harmful. And these are issues that we also need to tackle. They're talking about the death penalty. I'm talking about racism in America. That's all I've got to say. Have a good day. Goodbye.